Ladies and gentlemen, the forum is about to begin. Kindly take your seats immediately. If you require translation services, headsets are available at the entrance of the hall. Ladies and gentlemen, the forum is about to begin. Kindly take your seats immediately. If you require translation services, headsets are available at the entrance of the hall. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Her Excellency Dr. Vjosa Osmani Sadrio, President of the Republic of Kosovo, Mr. Prindon Sadrio, First Gentleman of the Republic of Kosovo, His Excellency Sir Rodney Williams, Governor General of Antigua and Barbuda, Her Excellency Lady Sandra Williams, First Lady of Antigua and Barbuda, Her Excellency Elisa Spiropadi, Speaker of the Parliament of the Republic of Albania, His Excellency Mr. Elmedin Konakovic, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Honorable Mahmoud Tabit Kombo, Minister for Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation of Tanzania, as well as ministers and other high-level dignitaries from around the world.
Wars do not end when the guns fall silent. They linger in the minds of children who wake to nightmares, in the hearts of mothers seeking to find peace in the shadow of violence, and in the silence of schools, streets, and squares left empty. These are the youngest casualties, not warriors, not decision makers, but children whose only crime was being born in the crossfire of politics and power. But from the ashes of their childhood rise entire generations who carry entire nations on their backs, rebuilding what war tried to erase. Their strength is peace forged in the fire of survival. Today, their message is clear. Security isn't measured by silence. It is measured by justice. And peace is not passive. It is built every day by the brave. By women who rise from war not as victims, but as visionaries. Who transform pain into policy, silence into leadership, and survival into strength. This is not just recovery. This is resistance. This is the power of women who do not just rebuild the past, they reimagine the future. Survival is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of responsibility. The future of global security begins with the safety of a single child.
We are the children of resilience. We are where the past and future intersect, and where our choices, our actions, our resolve is not simply about surviving. It is absolutely about thriving.
Unë jam Vanessa Suleimani, një fëmijë I luftës në Kosovë. Oh, but have I become so much more? I am the daughter of a very brave woman who was raped in front of me in 1999. At the age of 4, I witnessed a war crime deliberately designed to create more victims than survivors. For 15 long years, my mental and physical health was severely jeopardized. Until 2 years ago, when I decided I would no longer let it destroy me, us, or anyone anymore. War has many victims, even after the war has ended, often being young children, too incapable to heal, shield, and protect themselves from the things they cannot and should not have to understand. It took my mother 20 years to find her voice. And although I am still finding mine, I will use it proudly for the voiceless. As an activist for intergenerational trauma, mental health issues, and ending the stigma for children around the world. Intergenerational trauma does not define me, and it will not confine me ever.
Želim ovom prilikom sve da vas pozdravim, da se zahvalim organizatoru koji nas je pozvao ovdje, velika nam je čast, da se zahvalim ministru našem uvaženom gospodinu Konakoviću koji je danas sa nama. Moje ime je Zijada Efendić, ja dolazim iz Srebrenice. Rođena sam u Srebrenici, u jednom malom selu na samoj granici sa Srbijom. 1992. sam imala 13 godina kada je počeo rat u Srebrenici u Bosni i Hercegovini i samim tim što sam rođena na samoj granici sa Srbijom, smo bili izloženi svakodnevnim granatiranjem, ubijanjem, protjerivanjem. S tim smo se morali iseliti do Srebrenice u grad. 1995. se desio genocid, tu u genocidu, odnosno počinjen je genocid u Srebrenici. Tu sam izgubila brata koji je imao samo 24 godine. Protjerani smo iz Srebrenice definitivno. Bili smo izbjeglice u Sarajevu, Tuzli i diljem ostalog svijeta. Vratila sam se u Srebrenicu 2006. godine. Osnovala porodicu, imam 2 djece, živim tu s mužem i 2 djece. I moj muž, ja i djeca želimo da majke, očevi, braća, sestre i kćeri više nikada ne dožive rat na tim prostorima kao ranije. Želimo da pohlepa mržnja, nacionalizam budu pobjeđeni, da živimo u miru. Mi sad u Srebrenici gdje živimo imamo memorijalni centar u Potočarima, jednu državnu instituciju koja se brine o tome da se ne zaboravi, koja opominje o to što se desilo u Srebrenici, u kojoj možete vidjeti, sve mlade generacije mogu čuti o onome što se desilo u Srebrenici. To je to.
My name is Armira Muchole. I was born in 2005. I don't have memories of the war or rebuilding, but with so much love and pride, I carry with me my father's family that did not survive. My father lost his mother, 2 sisters, his wife, his 4-year-old daughter, Eronita, and his 2-year-old son, Fatas, in the war in Poklek. In that day, 53 of our family members were killed. Most of them women and children. Among them, a 6-month-old baby. My father was in the UÇK when it happened. He found out too late. That day, in total, 53 civilians were killed, then burned down twice. My father, he's my biggest hero and my biggest fan. I studied law at the University of Pristina and computer science and engineering at the University of Mitrovica. He says I'm just like his mother. She learned how to read and write at a time that most women did not go to schools. And she taught all of her kids those things too. My dad's younger sister, my hala Zarifa, she was the one that got to go to college. But my father, he never saw her graduate. She was there too when it happened. I lost a brother and a sister that I never knew, that I never got to go to school with. But I know all of them through my father, and they live in me. Everything that I am and that I will be is because of him and because of them. I will be the best lawyer there ever was, for him, for them, for you.
Hi, I am Lieutenant Arbenita Ajole, an instructor at the Defense Academy of Kosovo Security Force, soon to be a captain with an intent of retiring as a general. I love what I do, and I do what I love. I serve my nation. As refugees during the war, we were offered the chance to go to either America or Canada, but Kosovo was the only choice for us, no matter what, when, or how. When we got back home after the war, I started the first grade with a backpack donated by K4 soldiers. I remember everyone helping each other rebuild and restore our lives. When Kosovo declared independence, I was in the 8th grade. I was inspired to join the Kosovo Security Forces when I saw the first generations of cadets studying at the American University in Pristina. And now, I educate and motivate Kosovo's future officers. I build relationships, I build minds, I build leaders. And together, we are building our nation's future. And no matter how many international training programs I attend, for me, there is no place like home. And maybe serving in the military might not be as cool as computer science or IT, but it's my calling. I want to create a family and raise my children here. I will lead by example. I will encourage them to find their own way of serving, and I will make sure they will thrive.
Hello everyone, my name is Colin Krasnici. I was born in 2011. I'm learning about the resistance, the war, and how Kosovo became Europe's youngest democracy. I'm learning this in school and from my parents. I want to be an AI developer. I already am in terms of skills. I'm building an app which helps anyone learn anything they want in a fun and personalized way. In my spare time, I read biographies and also work on the in-app video generation tools to make the learning more effective. I also play football in my spare time. So my goal is to make a world where me, my family, my friends, my community, my country, and everyone in this world can feel, live, and learn safely. So, as Lieutenant Hajoli said, computers are cooler, so I do not plan on joining the army, but I will contribute otherwise. So, I promise to all of you that I will make all of you proud and smarter too. I'm thriving today because the others survived. Thank you.
What I would have become. I did not survive. Because we did not survive, you must continue to thrive.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pristina, the capital of the Republic of Kosovo. This is the 3rd edition of the International Women, Peace and Security Forum. Please welcome your Masters of Ceremony, Dojna Mema and Ilir Deda.
Përshëndetje.
Good morning.
Dhe mirë se keni ardhur në vitin e tretë të këtij forumi kaq të rëndësishëm. Jemi live, kuptohet. Mirë se keni ardhur, siç e thash, në vitin e tretë të këtij forumi kaq të rëndësishëm, forumit ndërkombëtar mbi gratë, paqen dhe sigurinë. Nuk ka qenë asnjëherë, duhet thënë, kaq plot kjo sallë, më shumë se kurrë, është e kuptueshme, sepse të gjithë ne së bashku besojmë në një ide. Gruaja është padyshim shtylla më e rëndësishme. Dhe këtë besojmë të gjithë pa dallim gjinie, pa dallim gjuhë të cilën e flasim, apo shteti i cili i përkasim. Gruaja dhe zhvillimi i saj tregon se sa e fuqishme dhe sa e emancipuar është një shoqëri. Të nderuar të pranishëm, të nderuar shkëlqësi, të nderuar ambasador, kampion të paqes dhe sigurisë, faleminderit që jeni këtu sot dhe mirë se keni ardhur në edicionin e tretë të forumit ndërkombëtar mbi gratë, paqen dhe sigurinë.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, before I go with the script, I would like to say to Vanessa, Ziada, Armira, and Arbenita that you are our heroes and you are our peace builders. And to Kaon, we hope your dreams come true and you become the IT developer that you aspire. It's a great honor to be today here as part of this very meaningful platform. To all our international guests, welcome to Republic of Kosovo. Dobrodošli, gosti iz Bosne i Hercegovine, iz Crne Gore. This year's forum holds a special significance as we mark the 25th anniversary of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. In a way, it correlates with our 26 years of living in freedom. It serves as a powerful reminder of the progress achieved, the voices amplified, and the important work that still lies ahead. Through this platform, we reaffirm our shared commitment to lasting peace and inclusive security for all.
Përpara 3 vitesh, kur ky forum ndërkombëtar u krijua, kishte një qëllim të qartë, të kthehej në një vend takim global për të folur sigurisht mbi tema të rëndësishme, siç është paqja e qëndrueshme dhe siguria gjithëpërfshirëse. E duket sikur këtë vit e kemi realizuar, sepse kemi 150 folës nga 45 shtete anë mban botës, kështu që faleminderit që keni ardhur.
And just like with every initiative, there is always someone who lights the first spark. And I'm very honored to be able to call her my friend, because the person who ignited that spark is our president, Vjosa Osmani Sadriu. And she boldly embraced a global agenda with the intention of placing Kosovo center stage and demonstrating to the world, but to ourselves as well, that we too are capable of offering global solutions. Our history of women, children, people, is the driving force behind it all. Through this forum, we set out to create a platform that empowers voices, shares our story with the world, and affirms that when it comes to security challenges and peace talks, these issues know no borders. Today, this forum stands as a global platform, a platform for all.
Në 25 vjetorin të agjendës mbi gratë, paqen dhe sigurinë, ne dëshiruam të shkonim edhe një hap më tej, përveç se patjetër të themi që është e drejtë që gratë të jenë pjesëmarrëse në çështjet e sigurisë dhe paqes. Ne shkojmë një hap më tej, sepse themi që roli i tyre është patjetër thelbësor, sidomos në shoqëri të cilat janë në kohë krizash, në kohë luftrash, gratë janë aty për fëmijët dhe gratë janë aty për të ringritur një shoqëri nga e para. Unë kam kënaqësinë dhe nderin të ftoj në këtë sken të zonjën e shtëpisë, që t'ju uroj padyshim edhe mirëseardhjen, Presidentja e Republikës së Kosovës, zonja Vjosa Osmani.
Madam President, we kindly invite you to join us on stage and kick on the event.
Your Excellencies, Governor General, Madam Speaker, Ministers, Ambassadors, distinguished guests, champions of the WPS agenda, friends of the forum, ladies and gentlemen from all around the world. Welcome, welcome to the Republic of Kosovo once again, to our resilient country, to our home of hope, and once again, to the global meeting point for critical discussions on peace and security. I must confess that opening the International Women, Peace and Security Forum remains one of my most meaningful moments of the year, because this is not a forum that is inspired by theory, but instead by a living reality. Here in Kosovo, we do not speak of peace from a distance. We speak of peace from the weight of memory, with a fierce sense of purpose, and with deep responsibility to spread the message, never again, never again. This year also marks 25 years since the adoption of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda, a visionary step forward that recognized that we in Kosovo have always known that peace cannot be sustained without the leadership, the wisdom, and the resilience of women. But 2.5 decades later, the world is still fighting for these principles to become a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, just over 2 decades ago, the children of this country witnessed horrors that no child should see, and mothers lost and buried their children as a result of war. And yet, in the darkest of hours, it was the women of this country that held our broken hearts together. So, as you know, they never accepted to be seen as victims, but as builders, as peace builders. They fought not only for our freedom, but also for justice, for dignity, and for a future worth living. And they continue to do that with every passing day. Stories that the children of Kosovo grew up with were not typical of childhood, but stories shaped by war. Stories of women who stitched together what war tried to tear apart. Of children who clung to books while hiding from shelling and from sniper fires. Of shattered dreams, but despite of these shattered dreams, of persisting hope and belief. Of neighbors who became shields. And of that unbearable silence after every explosion where only the heartbeat of a mother searching for a child could be heard. We remember those very, very well. One of our writers once said something very powerful when explaining that feeling. I quote, "The most painful sound is not the cry, but the silence after it." That silence, that unbearable silence, still persists stubbornly in every conflict zone around the world today. And it is for that reason that this year's theme, the Security Code for Our Generation, is more than just a title. It is a call to break the cycles of violence, a call to build a peace that is not passive, but dynamic, bold, representative, and just. A peace that must turn into the imperative of our time. A peace that puts the safety of children as the centerpiece of our engagement. Because peace is not merely what happens when the guns fall silent. Peace is the beginning of transformation. It is renewed opportunity, an opportunity to rise, to thrive, and to prosper. But how do we protect the most vulnerable while navigating the most complex threats of our time? As you all know, the global security environment is more volatile than ever. From traditional warfare to cyber attacks, from propaganda to destabilization, the battlefield has indeed evolved. But the victims remain the same. Women, children, the displaced, the voiceless. And in this era of rapid technological change, we're witnessing mass production, innovative breakthroughs, and previously unimaginable forms of creation. But what we actually need, now more than ever, are new tools for peace. While women remain at the heart of all peace and security efforts, children are the soul of our future. What wars often leave behind and what we too seldom talk about is the intergenerational harm, the kind of pain that outlasts the peace treaties. It's the quiet damage done to a child's sense of safety, the invisible wound carried by the young minds. It's the unbearable grief of losing a parent, a sibling, a loved one, a home, becoming a refugee, and as we've heard today from our peace builders, even witnessing the rape of your mother. The pain never fades away. It's the questions that never get answered. It's the futures that never fully take shape. It is children that carry the burden of war into adulthood. But children are not just victims. They are also future peacemakers, future presidents, future defenders of justice. So if we do not invest in them today, we allow conflict to shape tomorrow. That is why this forum exists, to raise the voices that war has tried to silence, to uplift those who refused to be broken, to build futures where others tried to sow fear and pain, and to center leadership that comes from empathy, not ego. We've heard from some of the survivors today, and we will hear so much more in the days to come. They're powerful stories which have always been the centerpiece of this forum, show us the true resilience of the human spirit, which has led them to build hope and strength and always extend a helping hand to those in need today. Because we got that helping hand when we needed it most in our darkest hours. So, dear colleagues, Kosovo stands here today not as a model of perfection, but as a living proof of what is possible when peace is present. We rose from the ashes. We turned trauma into policy. We turned silence into strength, and we are not alone. From our friends from Bosnia-Herzegovina who are joining us today, all the way to countries in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and all around the world, we all rose from the ashes to show and share the strength that we are sharing today. And today, from Ukraine to the Middle East, from Sudan to Myanmar, and across so many other conflict zones, once again, women and children are unfortunately writing the same painful stories that we once went through, that we once lived. And the question is this: will we keep just turning the page and pretend not to see? Or will we finally do the impossible, everything in our power to close the book on war? Because let us be brutally honest, war is the worst thing humanity has ever done. It is not natural, it is not fate, it is a failure. It's the failure to recognize another's humanity. And peace on the other hand is not complicated. Peace indeed is simply a question of will. And it is a matter of courage. And it's absolutely a matter of choice. And never again will become more than just a motto, only when never again means rejecting guns as solutions and choosing dialogue instead. When never again means refusing to let rage, hatred, and vengeance triumph over solidarity, compassion, and understanding. when never again is not something we just say after the next war, but something that we do to prevent the next war. And when it is reflected not just in speeches, but also in policies. Not in silence after tragedy, but in action before it, before the tragedy. Never again will become a reality when we truly mean it, when we mean it with sincerity, with resolve, and with unwavering conviction. Because our children deserve it. Because all the children around the world deserve it. They deserve to have their childhood lived, not stolen. They deserve to grow, dream, and thrive. It is their loud laughter, their boundless imagination, and their limitless potential that should shape our societies, not the pains of war. And this is why we are all here. For there is nothing and no mission more noble than making sure that the children of today never have to go through what we had to go through. Because there is nothing more worthwhile than fighting for peace. Because peace is the foundation of everything we strive for. Thank you very much.
Më pëlqeu shumë kur presidentja tha, lufta është dështim, let mos I biem rreth e rrotull, let ta quajmë për emrin që ka, lufta është dështim. Dhe në fakt, kur e mendon paqja, është aq e thjesht, aq natyrale, na bën mirë ne, na bën mirë të tjerëve. Faleminderit presidentes Osmani, sigurisht për leadershipin e treguar, por edhe për guximin që ka këmbguljen për ta çuar përpara agjendën mbi gratë, paqen dhe sigurinë dhe për ta bërë tashmë ndërkombëtare.
Thank you, Madam President, for being so resolute and on creating a culture of peace in our country and in our region. And thank you again for reminding us of transformative power of inclusivity, representation, and equal participation, not just in process of peace and security, but across all walks of life. And this is what we need more in our region, culture of peace, to cement that we will never have wars again.
Agjenda për gratë, paqen dhe sigurinë ka tejkaluar kufi, ka tejkaluar patjetër rajonin, por tashmë kemi tejkaluar edhe kontinente. Kemi kënaqësinë të ftojmë në këtë skenë Sir Rodney Williams, kreun e Antigua dhe Barbuda.
It is our distinct honor to invite His Excellency Sir Rodney Williams, Governor General of Antigua and Barbuda.
Your Excellency, Madam President of the Republic of Kosovo, and your dear husband, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, inclusive of ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is both a privilege and a great honor to stand before you today at the third edition of the International Women, Peace and Security Forum. On behalf of the delegation from Antigua and Barbuda, I express sincere gratitude to the government and people of the Republic of Kosovo, and especially to Your Excellency, Madam President, for your gracious hospitality and extraordinary leadership. I am honored to be in Kosovo today, a nation whose strong resilience and the democratic process inspires admiration around the globe. We commend Your Excellency, Madam President, for your visionary leadership in championing transparency, democratic reform, and inclusive diplomacy. Your efforts in securing strategic partnerships, strengthening the rule of law, and advocating for Kosovo's peace within the European community are exemplary. I am particularly moved by your bold advocacy for women's leadership in peace building and your unwavering commitment to the principles of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325. Your stance on youth empowerment, inclusive governance, and social justice resonates beyond your borders and reflects the shared values of small island developing states like ours. Your nation's journey from conflict to confidence is a testament to the power of perseverance and purpose. That we meet on this land, once torn by war, and is now striving for peace, is not lost on any of us. It reminds us that peace is never accidental. It is earned, defended, and sustained through vision, inclusion, and courage. As a medical doctor by training and a head of state by vocation, I have long observed that peace and health are profoundly interlinked. Both are not simply the absence of disease or conflict, but the presence of balance, dignity, and hope. Whether tending to trauma in a clinic or advocating for justice in a nation, the task is the same: to restore wholeness. This year, we mark 25 years since the adoption of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, a watershed moment in global diplomacy. For the first time, the Security Council acknowledged not only the unique burdens borne by women in conflict, but their equally dispensable role in resolution, recovery, and leadership. Resolution 1325 is anchored in what we call the 4 pillars: participation, protection, prevention, relief, and recovery. It called for nothing less than a paradigm shift from viewing women as passive victims to recognizing them as strategic architects of peace. And while the resolution ignited progress, we must admit that its promise remains only partially fulfilled. Too many peace tables remain male-dominated. Too many survivors go unheard. And too many grassroots women's organizations still operate with too little support. In preparing for this address, I revisited Kosovo's own history, and I was especially moved by the legacy of President Atifete Jajaga, Kosovo's first female president. Her courageous decision to center the voices of survivors of sexual violence in national healing was not just symbolic, it was structural. It redefined that leadership could look like and what peace must include. Excellencies, we speak today of global security. But we must also speak of local wounds, because the trauma of war does not end when the fighting stops. It lingers in homes, in classrooms, in the minds of children who stop dreaming, and in women who carry silent scars. Post-traumatic stress is not confined only to soldiers. It spills into the everyday lives of our communities. In the Caribbean, as in Kosovo and beyond, we have seen how conflict, whether through violence, displacement, or climate instability, can fray the fabric of society. And yet, we have also seen the resilience of women who hold that fabric together. Whether advocating for education, leading disaster recovery, or holding fragile families close, Caribbean women have long stood as pillars of strength and healing. Today, let us move from commemoration to commitment. I offer 4 keys as calls to action. 1 is to institutionalize women's leadership at every level of peace and security. Secondly, to invest in mental health and community-based trauma recovery, particularly for mothers and children. Thirdly, to amplify survivor-led movements, not as token voices, but as central partners in shaping justice. And fourthly, bridging the digital divide, ensuring that technology is a shield for the vulnerable, not a surveillance tool. Let us not forget the first casualty of war is often the truth. But the most enduring casualty is potential. The actor who never acted, the child who never grew up, the woman who never felt safe enough to lead. But here, in this forum, we are part of a counterforce. We are not only diagnosing the failures of peace, but we are also declaring our intention to build upon it, not alone, but together. Peace is not passive. It is a moral responsibility. It is a political choice and a daily act of imagination. Let us become, together, the architects of the state of peace we once only imagined. Thank you, and may the discussions that we have during this forum be bold. May your partnerships be lasting, and may your vision be uncompromising. Thank you very much.
Faleminderit shumë, faleminderit kreu të shtetit Antigua dhe Barbuda, Sir Rodney Williams.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We are honored by your presence.
Në përpjekjet globale për të avancuar më tej me një paqe dhe siguri sa më gjithëpërfshirëse dhe sa më qëndruese, patjetër ka nevojë të mbështetet në ligje të mirë menduara, kështu që detyrimisht parlamentet kanë një rol kyç në të gjithë këtë.
As a former parliamentarian, I believe that parliaments have a very strong role in promoting peace. But we live in a time when warmongering is much more popular in parliaments than advocacy for peace. And here we will be reminded again that Parliament is a central institution which has a fundamental role in also creating and preserving culture of peace. And in this sense, it's my pleasure to invite our next speaker, Her Excellency Elisa Spiropali, Madam Speaker of the Parliament of Albania.
Ftojmë në skenë kryetarën e Kuvendit të Shqipërisë, zonjën Elisa Spiropali.
President Osmani Dir Vjosa, Honorable Governor General Williams, ministers, honorable friends, champions of justice and peace, ladies and gentlemen. It is with particular pleasure and a profound sense of purpose that I'm here with you today at this important international gathering dedicated to one of the most defining issues of our time: the central role of women in peace, security, and democratic development. Allow me to first thank the Republic of Kosovo for hosting this forum with such vision and commitment, and to express my heartfelt gratitude to President Osmani for the invitation, but also for her inspiring leadership in initiating and developing this critical initiative. This forum, now in its third edition, is more than a gathering. It is a bold initiative driven by the understanding that women inclusion is not an optional element of development and peace. It is its very foundation. We recognize this achievement with admiration and stand ready to continue to support it every step of the way. It is not a coincidence that this forum takes place in the heart of Europe, in a place where the wounds and traumas of war, the human, personal, and family tragedies experienced by the women, girls, and innocent children of Kosovo are still very much alive. They are not forgotten. How could they? Across our region, we all know too well the terrible price of conflict, and because of it, also the immense power of reconciliation. Yet, there is a sad truth. Women and children always pay the heavy price of wars and conflict. But we also know that when given the chance and let alone empowered, women have been agents of change, architects of peace, and the moral compass of our societies. This is why, with its wisdom, despite unspeakable atrocities committed by the Milosevic regime, Kosovo never fell for mere revenge. Instead, it worked tirelessly to transform pain into strength, worked to end wars and avoid conflicts, invested in freedom and sovereignty of nations and peoples. The nowadays reality, this forum speaks by itself. They translate and reflect the great desire and Kosovo's deep sense of humanity, its commitment to peace, to the empowerment of women in every field of life, including as peacemakers and guarantors of security. In this context, let me recall, not without pride, Albania's recent contribution as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council during 2022-2023. A small country with reasonable ambitions, but with a strong voice for peace. Albania made it a top priority to place women, peace and security at the center of its agenda during its mandate. We worked tirelessly to promote the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 3025 and its subsequent resolutions, which this year marked its 25th anniversary. We advocated for the integration of women's voices in conflict prevention, peace negotiations, and post-conflict reconstruction. And we reaffirmed from the world stage that gender equality is not a secondary issue. It is foundational to international peace and security. I would like to single out that during the Albanian Security Council presidency, Albania made it a top priority to have the voices of Kosovo present and be heard. It was our honor to have the first citizen of Kosovo, you, Madam President Osmani, participate and deliver at a council area formula we organized with the United States, a keynote address on this very issue, right from your high office of the President, with the colors of the Republic of Kosovo displayed. This happened at a place where, unfortunately, still, the mere use of the word Kosovo still remains a matter of endless disagreements and excruciating negotiations. We were happy to do it for the Republic of Kosovo, but also to amplify the voices of those often silent. So inspiring, so resilient, so true. And let me be clear, our commitment did not end with our Security Council term. Albania continues to strengthen its national implementation of a WPS agenda, including our National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security, now in its second phase. We are investing in education, in economic opportunity, in leadership training, because security is not just about borders. It is about dignity, opportunity, and justice in every home and every village. Our particular focus consists of strengthening women's participation in security institutions and diplomacy, expanding support services for survivors of gender-based violence, promoting peace, education, and leadership development for young women and girls, aligning domestic policy with our international commitment under Resolution 3025. The Albanian Parliament, including during my humble tenure, has played an essential role in this journey. Our parliamentary committees on gender equality and foreign affairs have worked across party lines to embed the WPS agenda into our legislative processes. We believe that laws alone are not enough. We must ensure accountability, funding, and action. Dear friends, one would be tempted to ask, why involve women in such areas and issues that history has usually and mostly reserved to men? The answer is simple and straightforward. Precisely because the same history and common wisdom has also proven that women, with their soft power and ability, have shown their potential and skills to bringing people and societies together, closer, bridge differences and incorporate new political values, and use these values to emancipate social life, political institutions, and relations among countries. Whoever has not understood by now that the role of women is becoming central in every field of life fails to understand and realize the irreparable harm the opposite inflicts to the very social fabric of any society. In every democracy and free society, women have proven themselves to be a great transformative force. We have fully understood that in Albania, and this is reflected in every institution, the central and local power, and the public administration. Albania is today a champion in many key indicators related to achieving gender equality, especially in political, governmental, and parliamentary life. I can say with confidence that for us, part of the success in accelerating the country's development, democratization, and European integration can be explained by the increased participation and contribution of women. The recent parliamentary elections reaffirmed the irreversible pro-European orientation Albanians have chosen. They were, among others, marked by a broad participation of women who became a competitive and decisive force. We succeeded in maintaining the representation of women in the Albanian parliament at the same level as before, 50 women out of 140 MPs, or about 36% of the parliamentary body. The Albanian government is 50-50, and at some tenure of this majority, we were #1 at the UN Charter with 70% women in government and high representation in all high levels of the executive. I know we can do better in all levels of society too to fight discrimination, gender-based violence, and exclusion. One could also successfully argue that the exceptional role of women in society across our region, starting from here in Kosovo, where development, cooperation, democracy, peace, and security continue to be fragile in all our region, sometimes also threatened, both by the demons of the past or the inertia of the present, but also the new anti-democratic and anti-Western movements. This is why we must be and remain alert for women to fully exercise their role and assume their responsibilities in transforming societies. It is essential that they are free, empowered, protected from discrimination, including the various pernicious forms of gender-based violence. This is not just a cause amongst women for women, but one of society as a whole. It is therefore meaningful that key messages about women, peace, and security are delivered from Kosovo and Pristina, where the consequences of war are still present and wounds of the past not completely healed. The recognition of wartime sexual violence survivors, the increase in women's political participation, and the growing presence of women in the security and justice sectors all represent real progress and are truly inspiring. But they also reflect strategic vision, a vision driven by women and men who believe in the transformative power of inclusion. The journey of Kosovo's women from painful legacy of conflict to positions of leadership is not only a national success story, it is an example for all post-conflict societies around the world. The fact that the Secretary of State of the United States has selected Kosovo as the only European country and one of only 3 globally for the establishment of the Center of Excellence for Women, Peace and Security is a clear testimony of this commitment. Let's not forget women elsewhere in the world, including Ukraine, the Middle East, Africa or Asia or Latin America, who have the same call. I was pleased to have, not long ago, some of their representatives from Ukraine speak of their suffering and pain and appeal for action and peace from the Parliament of Albania. Dear friends, let me conclude by recalling the spirit of this forum, a collective commitment of all those who believe in peace through equality, through dignity. Let us not forget that every speech we make, every resolution we pass, and every promise we give must translate into tangible improvements in the lives of women in Pristina and Tirana, in Mitrovica and Jakova, everywhere in this region and beyond. Let us work and assure that no woman feels that her voice is too meek, her experience is visible, or her leadership unrecognized. Let us make this forum not just a place for conversation, but a catalyst for transformation. Albania, its parliament and other institutions, its women and whole society stand ready to continue doing their part in strong partnership with Kosovo, with all our friends and allies, and whoever believes in peace and security through respect and equality. Let us commit to keep our enduring promise for a future where women are not only at the table, but also heard and at the head of it. Thank you. Faleminderit.
Falenderojmë kryetaren e Kuvendit të Shqipërisë, zonjën Elisa Spiropali. Ndërkohë duhet thënë Ilir që këtë herë ka patur një pjesëmarrje të jashtëzakonshme, sigurisht edhe të njerëzve që janë të pranishëm në sallë, por ka patur dhe shumë kërkesa për të qenë pjesëmarrës në këtë eveniment kaq të rëndësishëm, edhe nëpërmjet videove, mesazheve. Tani do të ndalemi tek një grua që ka çuar gjithmonë përpara agjendën mbi gratë, paqen dhe sigurinë. Bëhet fjalë për lartmadhërinë e saj, dukeshën e madhe të Luksemburgut, Maria Tereza.
As a follow-up, we will have a short video from Her Royal Highness Grand Duchess of Luxembourg, Maria Teresa.
Distinguished guests, dear friends, it is a great honor to address you today. I would like to commend Her Excellency, Dr. Vjosa Osmani Sadriou, President of the Republic of Kosovo, for organizing this timely and urgent Women, Peace and Security Forum. Under the theme, The Security Code for Our Generation, we are reminded of our shared responsibility to redefine peace and security. Today, conflict continues to devastate lives, with women and children paying the highest price. In conflict zones around the world, women are not only losing homes and loved ones, they are being intentionally targeted. Rape is used as a weapon of war, a strategic, systematic tool to terrorize, destroy families, and break entire communities. This is not collateral damage. It is a war crime, and too often it goes unpunished. As United Nations champion for advocacy, and through my association Stand, Speak, Rise Up, created in 2019, I work every day with these terrifying realities. Our mission is to denounce rape as a weapon of war, prevent its use, and support survivors in the pursuit of justice and healing. Stand, Speak, Rise Up provides direct support to victims through economic empowerment, psychological care, and legal assistance. A vital part of our work includes recognizing and supporting children born of wartime rape. These children are too often stigmatized and denied the most basic human rights. Fighting for their recognition and dignity is essential to building inclusive and resilient societies. We advocate globally for policy change and amplify survivors' voices on the international stage. We need strong accountability mechanisms to investigate and prosecute all perpetrators, whether state forces, militias, or armed groups. We must deliver survivor-centered justice that brings dignity, healing, and a long-term support. And we call for an end to the culture of impunity that allows perpetrators to walk free while survivors bear the burden alone. This is about more than justice. It is about prevention. It is about ensuring that future wars are not waged on women's bodies. We may not yet end war itself, but we can and must end the use of rape as a weapon of war. Thank you.
What a powerful message. The Women, Peace and Security Agenda, has throughout the years been an integral part of NATO's work. NATO's efforts focus on promoting gender equality, protecting women's rights, ensuring their full participation in peace and security initiatives. By integrating gender perspectives into operations, training, and leadership, NATO enhances the effectiveness and sustainability of its missions. This is important because inclusive security leads to more lasting peace, prevents conflict more effectively, and helps heal communities across generations. To hear more about the progress achieved, the challenges encountered, and the goals of the future, I am pleased to invite Ms. Irene Felin, the Special Representative of the NATO Secretary General for Women, Peace and Security. So as a master of ceremony, I'm under pressure not to allow any kind of awkward pauses. Irene, welcome. Hi. welcome to Kosovo. No, I think I'm okay with my mic here. It's a great pleasure to have you here today. And personally, it's a great pleasure to be part of this fireside chat. And there are a set of questions that I think are important to hear more from you. You've been at the helm of NATO's agenda during a time of immense global uncertainty. And what does impact mean to you in the context of WPS at NATO today?
Yes, I think that's the most difficult question, not only when we talk about NATO, but when more generic we talk about the impact of the policies we work on and on women, peace and security. We heard a lot in the introductory speeches, and I think we all struggle to move from policy to impact. But for me, it would mean normalization of what we are doing. I mean, for me, the real way of measuring impact is to say that we don't need to focus on this topic and have extra work and dedicated work. But the work that we do more collectively on changing mindset and the cultural change would lead to normalization. Now, when it comes to NATO, this means what we have been trying to do, which is from dedicated policy enter into mainstreaming in what we do. So it's not an additional work, but it's really a way in which together with my other senior colleagues, we have reached this point where every single individual is accountable for integrating this across our three core tasks, namely deterrence and defense, crisis prevention and management, and cooperative security. In concrete, it means that every action we take when we plan our operation, when we prepare to deter and eventually to defend, we integrate gender perspectives and we take all security needs from the population into account. Concretely, it means asking the right question before doing this. We heard already, it's about talking about those topics during peace times, because when we deter, we are in peacetime and we want to prevent war and conflicts from happening. And in the moment where this arises, it's too late. It's too late to change mindset and to start doing business in a different way. So this is where we are in making this cultural shift, this change of mindset, and trying to integrate this in our operational planning, in our capabilities requirement, and in our way in which then we conduct our exercising and then our operations. Now, when it comes to representation and participation of women, because that's a big part of this work, in any institution, it is at political level, it is at NATO, and it is in all our organization, I think the big change and the impact is to move from numbers into effectiveness. Too often when I have conversation with non-like-minded people, they tell me, but I have a deputy, but there are women here, there are women there. I try to hire, which is important. Of course, it is essential. But we know that it's not the only way. It's not only having a number of women, but creating the right space for them to speak and to lead the conversation. We always use this language to have their voices heard. No, women can lead the conversation as men can do. So it's a conversation can be led by them or can be co-led, because I am a strong believer in diversity in terms of diversity of opinion, and I think that men and women work better together because we complement each other. And then I would like to conclude by saying also extremely important in a military organization, civilian military organization such as NATO, that we emphasize the dimension of the dialogue between military and security and defense organization and civil society. Ultimately, what we do at NATO is to protect 1 billion of the population. So this conversation cannot happen if there is no open dialogue between the population and the security forces. And to do so, we need a gender-responsive leadership and accountability from our leaders. that's an enabler to be ensure that those policies will have a real impact in the present and in the future.
I think we are the beneficiaries of protection by NATO. And this dialogue that you mentioned, it's something that happens regularly by KFOR here for the last 26 years. This discussion with all segments of the society, trying to understand, but also providing answers that we want. But on the WPS agenda, how has it evolved in the last few years? And what do you see is the most significant policy shift since you have been in charge?
So I'm in charge since beginning of 2022. But the history of the role of women in security and defense dates back before, many years before even Resolution 1325 was adopted 25 years ago. In fact, it was already at the beginning of the 60s that women working at NATO in defense and the different defense system realized that there was a need to put a focus on this. And already in 61, they came together trying to analyze and to create this network about a small group of women at that time, because we know that even today it's a limited number of women participating in defense. But that time it was even smaller. But this engagement started, and it was formalized then in 1976 by creating a committee of women in the armed forces. This committee has then changed during the years, and it's currently named the NATO Committee for Gender Perspectives. And it's not only exclusively for women, but as I mentioned, it's for men and women together, working together to changes. Now, when it comes to the policy was adopted, we know, by the Resolution Security Council into the year 2000. And then it took some time before NATO started working on a policy framework. But it took less to understand by doing, because during our operation in Afghanistan and our presence there, we learned by doing that there was a need to have gender advisor, that there was a need to understand the security needs of the population in a different way. So we started by an empirical experience, and we made a step back and understood that there was a need to create a policy framework that at the beginning was focused on operation, actually on crisis management. And this is where your shift has come since 2007 and 10, when our first action plan was developed, to today. And during these 15 years and almost 20, we could see a shift of mentality and approach. So no longer operations and crisis management, which is still actual. We have here and KFOR, and that's where it is still, even in Iraq. But the need is to integrate this across the entire business. So in all areas where NATO is engaged, there are gender considerations to be taken, women's and men's different perspectives, different needs, and different contributions to be made. So when we look at this shift, I think that's the most important one, and that leads today to our main core task, which is deterrence and defense. And another important element I would like to mention is a focus on conflict-related sexual violence that led to the adoption of a dedicated policy in 2021. This is still part of Women, Peace and Security, but having a dedicated policy helped understanding the importance of this topic and how our armed forces have to behave, first to be trained, and then in order to be able to prevent and respond to conflict-related sexual violence if this will occur when they are deployed.
Thank you. And to shift a little bit, how can the WPS agenda strengthen NATO partnerships with aspirant countries, like Kosovo, on others? I don't want to name them, but especially we who are dealing with in very complex security threats, either on the borders, either the malign foreign influences. Oops. I mean, does this question make any sense? Is there a correlation between the agenda and strengthening the partnership with the rest of us who want to be members of NATO one day?
there is a stronger element that brings us together. This is about our democratic values. And women, peace and security, and women's rights are the foundation of the democracy. We know that there is a strong correlation in terms of women's rights and women's empowerment in country and democracy.
Yes.
So you mentioned a very important point. As I said earlier, cooperative security and is part of one of our core tasks, the work we do with our partner. So we work very closely with partners in defense and security in many aspects, from training together, from having political dialogue. And during the years, the element of women, peace and security has become one of the common area of work, and there is an increased interest from all partners across the globe, and especially the partners who would have ambition to enter into the Euro-Atlantic areas.
Yes.
And it's really the core of what we share. And this has an operational element. We talk about interoperability, and for me, I like to see this interoperability concept not only about fighting together, so exercising together and being able to deter and if needed to defend, but as I mentioned, it's about our values, what characterize us, what differentiate us from our enemies. It is about democracy and democratic values. So we have tools. In common, we have partnership agreements that speak about the initiative that we do together, because this is an enabler that helps societal resilience, that make our relationship with the population we want to protect better, because it enables some trust in our security and defense organization, and this is very much needed, especially in a moment like now. We talk about a lot more than before about defense, about increasing our defense spending. And for the normal population, it might be not easy to understand what is going on, why this is needed. I think that in a country such as Kosovo, it's different because you live this. It is a very recent memory.
We can teach you something.
Yes, and that's an extremely good point. In our partnership, it's not only NATO training and teaching, it's a mutual exchange.
Yes.
And I think that it's extremely important to stress this element. And when it comes to conflict-related sexual violence, when it comes to the role of women in civil society, I think you have to teach us, you can teach us a lot as well.
Thank you. Also, how to live in uncertainty. I have a quote here that I loved. You emphasize that inclusion isn't just the right thing, but it's the smart thing. And you keep on saying that. And I would just like just a little bit of reflection for esteemed audience on why are you so set on that?
When we talk about the right things to do, and we say because it talks about women's rights and the rights to contribute to defense and security, to have a role within the society in all areas of work, including, as I said, defense and security. But when we look from an operational perspective, we say that it's a smart things because this increases our mission efficiency. Mm-hmm. We learn from our operations that we cannot achieve our mission goals if we don't take women and men's different perspective into consideration and into account. Wow. It is important to have a gender conflict analysis to understand the human and security environment. And you cannot analyze the population if you don't take into consideration that men and women, boys and girls, are part of the population and they have different needs. So when we operate, when we plan our operation, we need to plan this throughout the gender lens. And so that goes back to, as I said earlier, exercising and training to be ready in case of deployment. So that's why it is essential. But if we want to move a little bit beyond the core of NATO, which is deterrence and defense, and our readiness, to combat readiness, we know from research and studies since adoption of Resolution 1325 that the participation of women in peace mediation, in negotiation, increases the likelihood that an agreement is found, and especially, and what is the most important part, is that a peace agreement will last longer. And this is for the same reason, because women bring a different perspectives. They know the society differently. They do a lot of mediation at community level. Maybe they are not seen, but it's not because they're invisible, it's that they are absent. On the contrary, their way of keeping the fabric of the society together has a big impact and a more long-lasting impact. I work a lot with women in mediation across country, and I know that here in the Balkans and in Kosovo, there are a lot of
As you were saying that, I was thinking about Madam President. I think we need her to be more involved in these peaceful efforts in our region.
And we see this, that's extremely important, and we see that at leadership role, the participation of women can make a difference in every context and at every level. And then what is more is that our security forces are the mirror of our society. Half of the society is made by women. We cannot be effective if this part of the society is not included. And then looking at the data in Kosovo, I was seeing that it is around the average at NATO, so 10% in the police and 8%, around 8% in the armed forces.
Yes.
It's still low, but an average at NATO, across NATO countries is 12%, so it is in the average. Now we need to work more to increase the number, because having a more diverse workforces will make us more effective.
And on this, how can women, peace and security agenda help the Western Balkans from backsliding? Because we like to walk on the edge. Sometimes one thinks half of our region wants to move forward and half would like to take us back in the dark hours. And could the WPS agenda help prevent backsliding in peace and democracy? And if yes, how? And if no, then no.
The answer is yes, of course. I already mentioned how this is very strongly tied with democracy and the democratic values. So maintaining this very high in all agendas. So with dedicated events such as this one, which are extremely valuable and still necessary, but at the same time by integrating this work and this consideration in everything we do. This will make the society stronger, and this will make it harder for authoritarian tendencies to take roots, to make their roots. The governance becomes more representative and more resilient. We speak a lot about resilience and the whole of society approach of resilience. And I think this is where we are today, and we have to look into this. And we know that we can't make this work unless we involve women in all processes at every level. And we've moved from the leadership, and we have here a great leader doing this, but from the leadership at the highest political level to civil society, and creating this open dialogue between the different stakeholders, it is essential, because otherwise the different part of the society will not talk, and in the moment of crisis, this is where we will not have time to open this dialogue.
Yes.
The dialogue has to be created in a safe and in a very constructive way during peace times between the political, military, and defense and civil society. And in this way, this will be a tool to enable, democracy to resist and to fight against authoritarian regimes.
Or tendencies. We have tendencies. Now looking towards the future. If you could reshape one aspect of NATO's geopolitical posture through the lens of WPS, what would it be?
So you couldn't have a more pertinent question, because that's what I basically have been doing since I started. I came, as I said, 4 weeks before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and our posture was not where we are today. So in these 3 years, we had to completely change our posture, and we were just leaving Afghanistan at that time, and we were still in this post-crisis management posture, and we had to go back to the core of our work, deterrence and defense. WPS agenda, we know the roots. I will not now speak because I'm pretty sure that all the audience here knows about the principles of the UN agenda. But what is interesting at NATO is that this is a lively agenda. Women, peace and security is an enabler for the Alliance to do our work better and to be more efficient, as I said. So it's not that the agenda is static, it evolves and adapts to our posture. Now, the core of our business and our posture is a posture of deterrence and defense. We have to protect our territory from Russia and from other threats. We are supporting Ukraine. So what does this mean for us? It means increasing our forces. It means exercising more, increasing our capabilities. So my work now is to make sure that in all decision that is taken, these women's and men's needs and perspective are taken into consideration. When we talk about generating forces, we cannot generate enough forces if we don't tap into half of the population. Yes. As I said, so we need in our work to make sure that the barriers that are present, maybe not on paper, but culturally in our respective armed forces, are overcome, to make sure that women join the armed forces and they found a suitable environment to remain part of them.
Yes.
It also means thinking about security in a different way. Today, yes, we fight on the front line. If we look at Ukraine, that it's a case study right now, we can see how the war is a very multi-domain fight. So it is on the front line, we know, but in these past years, it has moved very rapidly in the cyberspace,
yes,
in the maritime domain. So what we need to understand, how are the different perspectives, the impact of security or lack of security on population. But this also opens up to different possibility for women to be involved in the security area. So if we took, sometimes we can see about a few discussion about still the need of have different physical requirements that not all women fit
yes,
to the requirements. But if you think that today we have a lot of work conducted on a cyber domain, we have the dual use of drones. So the physical requirements are maybe less important. There are some skills and knowledge in technology, in hybrid and
yes,
cyber, which means that we need to rethink our way of hiring and how we conduct a multi-domain operation and how we have to get ready to prevent this from happening. Some other aspect when it comes to technology is also a form of violence that is happening there, which is technology-facilitated gender-based violence. It is about the use of technology to touch upon women, and especially when it comes to their then willingness to participate in leadership roles. And this has
yes,
a big impact on the likelihood that women will remain in politics and will have a leadership role when they are attacked on a constant basis behind a screen. And so this is also part of the new policy on women, peace and security at NATO, and this is an extremely important area that many allies and partner countries work on.
yes,
And we have to be very attentive because we heard a lot about physical violence, but online violence is also extremely dangerous.
And maybe just to wrap this up, what would be your message to young women and men who are stepping into the leadership role that you just talked about? How can they carry the WPS agenda forward?
Let me start by saying that I feel very humbled to come here and speak with you, with them, and because for us sitting in our offices and working on policy, it is different. It's much easier in one way than coming here and hearing about survivors of the war on conflict-related sexual violence, about children of war.
Yes.
So the message I would like to say is that you that represent the leadership of today and of tomorrow, you represent the new generation, because with 25 years of work on women, peace and security, that's already another generation.
Yes.
And it's extremely important for me, the message I always give to the one who wants to work on this is that the best thing that you can do is to bring this, carry this message with you in everything you will do in your life. You don't need to be a women, peace and security expert. You don't need to work exclusively on this. On the contrary, you can be a great champion and carry the core messages with you in everything you will do. Because this is the real way of shaping a different culture or create a new society that will be a society of where the peace is the word. Even if we need to strengthen our defense, don't give up on talking about peace. Don't give up in believing in peace. And this and be bold and don't be shy in speaking about this. This will help us in shaping a new society and hopefully will help us in living in peace in the years to come.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's what we want, culture of peace. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And now, after this, I hope, inspiring discussion, we move to a more emotional part of this day.
Samo je rekao, vodi mi djecu i gledaj mi u djeci. Uzeo u torbi njihovu odjeću i obuću. Kao imam bar djeci, obuću i odjeću uspomen. Samo mi je rekao, to gledaj mi na djecu, ništa drugo. Ako bude sudbine, vidjet ćemo se.
Iskreno. Znači, bez tableti ne mogu ništa. Na živcima sam od svoje 14. godine pijem tabletu.
3 su pitanja koja se u Bosni više ne koriste. Šta je radio tokom rata? Kako je tvoj muž? Kako je tvoj sin?
A moj sin imao je i leđa, i glavu, i ruke, i karlicu. Od toga još nema ništa, još se nije to pronašlo.
Živjela sam u genocidu mi je ubijeno 22 člana moje uže familije.
The mothers of Srebrenica are here, and it's extremely important that they are because a genocide happened in Srebrenica. Till here, up to today, people denying the genocide, people saying that it did not happen. The United Nations was founded on the promise of never again. This promise is difficult to keep, but we must keep trying.
Draft resolution is adopted.
Da vole i da budu voljeni i da nikad nikom ne nanesu neki bol.
Nënave të Srebrenicës, sepse besojmë fort që gjë më e mrekullueshme kësaj bote është ringritja pas një dhimbje kaq të madhe.
We are honored to have today with us His Excellency Foreign Minister of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Mr. Elmedin Konaković. Gospodine Konakoviću, molim vas, pridružite nam se.
Esteemed Madam President, dear Vjosa Osmani, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I extend my warm greetings and would like to say that I'm truly pleased and honored to be here today in Pristina. This year marks the 25th anniversary of UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security. This forum provides a valuable opportunity to highlight the importance of its full and effective implementation. At the heart of the resolution and the broader women, peace and security agenda is the meaningful participation of women in decision-making processes, not only in matters of peace and security, but across all sectors of society. UN Security Council Resolution 1325 is a milestone in recognizing the vital role of women in peace and security. It rests on 4 key pillars: participation, protection, prevention, and relief and recovery. The resolution calls for the meaningful involvement of women at all levels on decision-making, especially in conflict resolution and peace processes. It's also emphasized the protection of women and girls in conflict, the prevention of violence, and the inclusion of gender perspectives in all peace-building efforts. Recognizing its importance and transformative potential, Bosnia and Herzegovina has to date adopted 3 national action plans for the implementation of its resolution, reaffirming its commitment to a continuous and systematic approach. As the Foreign Minister of Bosnia and Herzegovina, today, I'm deeply honored that the mothers of Srebrenica are the recipients of this year's Women, Peace and Security Award. These brave women have endured the deepest human pain, yet transformed their grief into a powerful force for justice, remembrance, and peace. They have never sought revenge, only truth. Their voices have crossed borders, reminding the world that peace is not possible without justice. And the memory, it's a form of resistance against denial. Their legacy is not only Bosnian, it is universal. It is a moral compass for all of us. The mothers of Srebrenica have become a global symbol of dignity and justice in the wake of one of Europe's darkest chapters. In the face of unimaginable loss, they refuse to be silenced. Instead of hatred, they choose dignity. Instead of revenge, they choose truth. Their courage continues to expose denial, demand accountability, and inspire generations to stand against genocide and injustice. They are not only the voice of Srebrenica, they are the conscience of the whole world. Thank you so much.
Vërtet momente shumë emocionale e lirë që do t'i mbajmë gjatë në zemër dhe në mendje. Ftojmë edhe një herë në sken presidenten e Kosovës, zonjën Vjosa Osmani. Ky është një nga momentet më të rëndësishme të kësaj dite, duhet ta nënvizojmë.
dear mothers of Srebrenica, there are pains that words cannot capture. There are losses so profound that nothing in this world could ever measure them. Wounds that never heal because they run deeper than history itself. But one thing remains certain. At heart of this unfathomable sorrow lies the greatest strength that humanity has ever known, the strength of a mother. Srebrenica is an open wound in the conscience of the world. It is the symbol of a tragedy that shook the global conscience, but still has not received the justice it deserves. There, more than 8,000 men and boys were mercilessly massacred by Milosevic's genocidal forces in just a few days and in front of the eyes of the world, while the women, the mothers, the sisters, the daughters were left with an unending pain. We in Kosovo deeply empathize with your sorrow because we too experienced that same genocide committed by the same aggressor. The list of massacres is long and painful. And even now, more than 2 decades after the war ended, thousands of people from Kosovo, from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and from around our region remain forcibly disappeared. There are no graves for the mothers to mourn at, no answers for their families, only silence, a silence that hurts every single day. But despite this unending pain, the mothers of Srebrenica, just like so many mothers in Kosovo, chose to speak out, to stand and fight for justice, and to never forget. You became the voice of those who can no longer speak. You became the conscience the world was missing. And you showed everyone that without justice, there can be no long-lasting peace. With every photograph that you have held in your hands, with every name you have spoken through tears, and every step you have taken towards international institutions, you have kept memory alive in defiance of oblivion. Dear mothers of Srebrenica, dear ladies and gentlemen, throughout my tenure as president, I've honored plenty of times the mothers of Kosovo for turning their strength, their pain, in fact, into strength, and for never keeping silent in asking for justice for the children that they've lost during the war. But today, it is my honor on behalf of all the people of my country who deeply sympathize and support the mothers of Srebrenica to honor all of them and their courage. And I would like to say that in Bosnian language. Danas, u ime svih građana Kosova, želim da vas izrazim našu najdublju zahvalnost. Vi ste inspiracija budućim generacijama. Vi ste simbol moći koja dolazi iz majčine ljubavi. Vi ste primjer da bol može postati snaga, a gubitak se može transformisati u posvećenost boljem svijetu. Stoga sam na osnovu svojih ustavnih ovlaštenja kao predsjednica Republike Kosova odlučila da majkama Srebrenice dodijelim predsjedničku medalju za zasluge. This presidential order this year is awarded to the mothers of Srebrenica with the following motivation: for their unparalleled courage in the face of unimaginable pain, and for the determination with which they turned sorrow into hope and the memory of their loved ones into an extraordinary commitment to justice. And it's only fitting that this is happening while we will be commemorating the 30th anniversary of the Srebrenica genocide, because we call it for what it is, a genocide which we hope will never, ever happen again. Dear Mother Kada Hodic, I kindly accept you to join me on stage together with the other mothers of Srebrenica to accept the Medal of Merit. May God bless all the mothers of Srebrenica. May God bless all the mothers of Kosovo. And may the memories of the loved ones we lost forever be a blessing.
Hvala, hvala.
Poštovani prisutni, prijatelju, ekscelencije, svi vrsta ljudi koji su ovdje, i vladini i nevladini i naši prijatelji Kosova i svi koji saosjećaju s majkama Srebrenice, s majkama koje su proživjele genocid u Srebrenici, koje smo imali agresiju na Bosnu i Hercegovinu od strane Srbije, od domaćih izdajnika koji se priklonili srpskoj politici Miloševiću i inim osuđenicima na doživotne kazne. Htjeli su da nas nestane. Ubili su nam sinove, muževe, braću, rodbinu, istjerali nas iz grada. Ostavili nas, majke, sestre, supruge, ucvijeljene, mislili da ćemo skapati od tuge i od bola. A mi smo se uspravile, izborile. Iznijeli istinu uz čitav svijet. Izborile se za sve ove zasluge koje je naš ministar Konaković ovdje iznio. Izborile smo se i za rezolucije, i za na Skupštini Ujedinjenih nacija u posljednju, koja je jako bitna da se genocid pamti i ne zaboravi, da je kažnjivo koga negira, to je istina. Mi smo se izborili. Ako sam ostala bez sina, bez braće, bez rodbine, bez mog grada, bez mog naroda, imam ponos i otvorili smo oči ljudskom dostojanstvu da cijeni pravdu i mir, pravo svakog čovjeka na svoju državu, na egzistenciju, na mir, na život, na slobodu izražavanja religije i bilo kako je naslijedio u svom rodu i porodu. Hvala prijateljima Kosova, hvala svim prisutnim. Nas ima više udruženja koja se borimo za istinu i pravdu. I hvala Bogu, pobjedili smo. Živi bili. I mir neka je s vama i u čitavom svijetu.
Have the author of the silver flower, which signifies Srebrenica, Professor Mensur Bektić, who will present a Srebrni cvijet to our president. Professor Bektić, please join us at the floor. Yes.
Një ditë e parë e mbushur plot me emocione, në fakt për mua është hera e parë fare që jam pjesë e këtij forumi, kështu që gjej rastin të falenderoj dhe presidentin që më ka bërë pjesë. Ishte vërtet shumë emocionuese ta shihje si publik, shumë emocionuese të jesh këtu. Sigurisht që forumi do të vazhdoj me panelet të tjera, në zona të tjera aty ku zhvillohet forumi, për gjithë ju që keni dëshirë të ndani momente nga ky forum në rrjetet sociale, mjafton të përdorni hashtagun, sigurisht nëse keni dëshirë, hashtag WPSRKS2025. Faleminderit shumë që ishit pjesë e kësaj dite të parë, shihemi nesër.
Thank you very much. As we move towards the first panel, which is called Peacemaking in the 21st Century, What Does It Take? I am honored to invite for a keynote speech the Honorable Mahmoud Thabit Kombo, Minister for Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Tanzania.
Madam Excellency, President Yosa Osmani Sadriou, Governor General, Madam Speaker, all the ministers, diplomats, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen who are here today. It has been also an emotional exercise for me because it's my first time in Pristina in my life. I'm coming for the first time in Kosovo. I had prepared a speech, but I'm not going to read that keynote address anymore because of what I learned here for the first time, of what you have been going through, the history, the memories, the heart-touching stories, the scars that are remaining amongst you. And I share this with you and your story, and I don't claim to be expert in this area, but I understand now why we were invited to come and be with you, because we also share similarities of similar stories of the genocide that happened in our neighboring states during then, Rwanda and Burundi. And my country received over 2 million refugees. This number is very small compared to the number that we received. And out of those, more than 160,000 were given naturalization to become citizens of the United Republic of Tanzania. So we share similar stories, but we don't know each other's stories. I will leave Kosovo and Pristina with a transformation in my mind to understand and know this story. And I think the question of the next panel, you are the answer. Kosovo is the answer. Pristina is the answer. Madam President, your president is the answer for the question that is going to be asked in the next panel. We share several other similarities, which I would like to mention to you because you don't know about the other side. As I was just a few days ago, I didn't know about this side of the world. I never knew Kosovo, the borders, where it was. I just knew the former big country, which we were taught in our history, in our primary schools in Africa, about Yugoslavia and the Balkanization and the breakdown. This is what we were taught in school. But by coming here, now I can understand fully where you are coming from and where you are. And I believe that by being here, you will also know a little about our story on the East African side. I don't know how many of you have been to Tanzania. I don't know how many of you have been to Zanzibar. I know Zanzibar is very famous here. But we need to tell our story as well so that you understand. We have a lot of similarities. And one of the similarities in answering the question to this panel is we both share women president. I was also sent here by a woman president. And that is Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan. She has a similar concept to your your president and what she has done today here, and what she has awarded mothers of Srebrenica here today. She has a similar concept, but one of our main concepts is also preventing conflicts, because peace, in our definition, is the absence of conflict. And she has been very active in putting strong measures for peace. And by definition, peace is absence of conflict. By definition, is also to prevent more conflict occurring. And we all understand, with all what this has happened, we all understand there are 5 main sources of conflict. One of them is borders that were not drawn by us, we found them. Borders and borderlines. None of us drew those borders, we found. I'm sure we were born, all of us, we were born after those borders came. And there were, of course, new borders due to the disintegration of different states. But the main borders that were there before were drawn before us. Second is ethnicism, which is all over the place. Third is ideology. I will combine ideology and religious faith and belief. Fourth is natural resources when they are close. Rivers, mining. We have Eastern DRC is a good example. Is one of the key also. And the final part is the history, which can be inherited over generations. And the answer that we are going to ask ourselves today in this next panel is peacemaking in the 21st century. Where does it take, or what does it take? We don't have a straightforward answer of what does it take, because it's a shame today on humanity. We are in 2025, in the era of AI. We are defining AI, artificial intelligence, and still humanity is at its lowest in conflict, in fighting, in what we have seen here before. I appeal to all the humanity, because once a cardiologist told me you cannot differentiate a heart when it is removed from a body of a Kosovan or Tanzanian. You cannot differentiate. You cannot differentiate a heart of a black person and a white person, never. The heart is the same, the bone is the same, the blood is the same color, the blood grouping is the same, the blood transfusion. So the science has united us in humanity, but yet we socially have created diverse cities and we've created separation on humanity. All what I want to say by getting this great invitation, being around very important people, and we thank very much Madam President Vosa Osmani Sadriou for giving us this invitation to be here. We would like to share with you of peace-building mechanism and long-lasting, sustainable peace-building mechanisms that we have adopted in our country. And one of them is preventing conflict. And the best means of preventing conflicts is involvement of women empowerment, empowering women. Here, Madam President, in the presentation said thriving for the lives of women. For us is empowering women. And I must declare I've got 4 daughters and 1 son, so there are more women in my household. I'm dominated by women. So I'm very pro-women. So empowering women. Number 2, prevention, which we have used, and this is the answer. What does it take? Is empowering our youth. Creating more jobs for our youth. Because the moment we don't create jobs for our youth is a moment of creating a platform for new conflict. Educating our youth. I was very impressed by that young man, and I think he will reach very far in AI. He talked about AI. And I was very much impressed by the lady soldier who gave her presentation of training others in peacekeeping, because Tanzania is also a contributor of United Nations peacekeeping forces in many countries. So empowerment of women and empowerment of youth, these are our main key pillars, which I strongly believe and will support Madam President here in having more collaboration between United Republic of Tanzania. We have something to offer, although we are a developing nation, but we have something to offer. We have a good example also of accommodating others who are affected by the genocide, and we hope for this cooperation to continue between us and share more of our stories. I know I stand between you and the lunch, and there is another panel coming, so I would like really to reduce my speech, because it is very difficult when you stand between the lunch, and also the program which was shown here was very emotional. We are hoping to come more to Kosovo. We are also inviting you to visit more of United Republic of Tanzania. Tanzania has got a lot to offer that you don't have here. One of them is safari, Ngorongoro, Serengeti, Manyara, and of course Zanzibar, the tranquil, beautiful islands of Zanzibar. So with these few words said, once again I take this great opportunity. I will attend other sessions, but I take this great opportunity on behalf of the United Republic of Tanzania and on behalf of our President, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, to fully support the exercise of peace, long-lasting peace in your country, but also thriving communities that are coming out of conflict in support, and we hope to do more exchange in different programs of that support. Once again, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Please welcome the moderator of this session, Ms. Nancy Soderberg, Senior Resident Director of NDI Kosovo, while I have earned my lunch. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction, and welcome to all for this first panel of the third annual WPS Forum here in Kosovo. And I want to thank Foreign Minister Kambo for those very inspiring works and for introducing and kicking off this panel. We have a really incredible array of individuals joining us for this peacemaking in the 21st century. What does it take? By the end of this panel, you'll have all the answers, I promise. It's a tough discussion, but I want to first thank President Osmani for this extraordinary event for 3 times in a row, her incredible team putting this together, and Deputy Foreign Ministers Gervala and Rejepi for joining us today, and all of you peacemakers around the world. What an array of courage we've seen this morning on this stage. My name is Nancy Soderberg, and I work for the National Democratic Institute here, but I was also in the Clinton administration, and one of my proudest moments was being the ambassador in the seat when we raised our hand and voted for 1325, 25 years ago. There was one other woman on the table after speeches of men saying we have to put women at the table. And 25 years ago, I think we're all here today to commit ourselves to put women at the table at every level of conflict and negotiations. I wanted to bring up and introduce our extraordinary panel. And I know, as the Foreign Minister said, we're standing between you and lunch, so we'll make it a little bit truncated. We'll end sharply at 1:15 so that you can have lunch for an hour. And networking is an important part of this session. So we'll save 5 minutes at the end for questions. If anyone wants questions, get ready. They'll have passed around mics in the audience, and we'll look forward to a very extraordinary discussion. So let me invite the panelists to come up, and I'll just introduce them as they come on stage. First, we have Dr. Lilivan Karnchanachari, who is the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs from Thailand. She has also served as Vice Minister for Culture. We have Deputy Minister Silda Anagnasti Chepe. She is the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs from Albania and a City Councilor for Tirana and Chairperson of the National Alliance. Nice to see you. And we have Melisa Haradinaj Stubla, Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs of Kosovo. Unfortunately, Eva Maria Limet's plane didn't make it on time, so she is not going to be with us, from Estonia. We have Patricia Nangoza Kayanga from Malawi, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. She's been an elected member of Parliament since 2014. And finally, Pavlina Zakova is the Deputy Minister of European Affairs from the Czech Republic, who brings a wealth of experience across European foreign ministries and also has a PhD in economics. And what an extraordinary panel that we have here today with us. And I'd like to make it as conversational as possible. I've had a chance to talk to all of you about specific expertise that you might want to draw on, but feel free to jump in to my opening questions, and we will finish promptly in about a little over half an hour. So we'll speak quick and fast and brilliantly, I'm sure. So I wanted to follow up on a little bit of what President Osmani said, is that it takes will, courage, and choice to change the world. And we have seen this past year being the most violent conflict, most conflicts around the world since World War II. So we're obviously failing on peacemaking and peacekeeping, and wanted to just kind of point out that there's 612 million women and girls who live in the conflict zones, and we all know they're on the front lines, as we saw today from the brave mothers of Srebrenica massacre. But if you look at Afghanistan, Gaza, Haiti, Ukraine, Myanmar, Sudan, the list goes on, and the most vulnerable, the women and girls, are at risk and continue to be marginalized. And we know when women don't have safety, they don't participate in societies, and the world is a lesser place for that. So we wanted to draw on your expertise today to really kind of answer a few broad questions. And let me start with just an opening one to all of the panel and the big picture. And the world sort of feels like it's shifting right under our feet, geopolitically, technologically, socially. And at this moment, what does peacemaking mean to all of you in your own countries? You know, how are you approaching that? And what do you see at the end of this, what's missing? But maybe we can just kind of get a broad brush on whoever wants to jump in, and maybe Deputy.
Thank you, Nancy.
You have to push the button, and you have to put a little closer to you so we can hear as well.
Okay, so actually, how the world is shaped today, and with the changes that are happening in a pace that it's extraordinary, peacemaking means more than cessation of conflict. It means building systems and relationships that make peace sustainable. It should be inclusive and resilient. It should, we must listen to people. We must listen to people, and we must take off the barriers that we have in our minds. So we must talk to them, but taking into consideration the inequalities, disinformation, the anxieties, the division of generations, and so on. So it's not something that is mechanic, but it's something that we do through dialogue, through talking to people, to vulnerable communities, and to the ones that otherwise don't have a voice. So we should make it possible for the ones that don't have a voice to speak and not stay in our offices and, pretend to make peace from there.
And I remind you, they asked that we turn our mics off when we're finished to turn it back on. So let me just turn to Deputy Minister Zakova and really maybe ask you to draw on your experience of being immersed in EU enlargement, which is one of the biggest peace-building projects across the Balkans. And just would you maybe take a minute on the EU role in that process and how is it evolving?
So thank you very much, Nancy, for bringing up the topic of EU enlargement in this conference, because of course the EU is involved in Western Balkans in very many standard peacemaking, peace-building activities such as diplomatic dialogue, financial support, peacemaking missions, development, humanitarian aid, etc. But what the European Union has as an extra offer is that the EU promotes peace via its own enlargement. The European Union is a peace project by itself. It is actually the world's most successful peace project, which has overcome conflicts in Europe, which then burdened the nations for many centuries. And currently, the EU membership with EU enlargement is also an opportunity to expand this peace project. It's an opportunity also for the Western Balkan countries to be part of this peace project and to help, which helps to overcome long-term historical conflicts. At the same time, we must be clear that this is not a charity. Involvement of the Western Balkans in the EU is of course also a matter of the EU own security. We could hear High Representative of the EU for Foreign Policy, Kaja Kallas, who visited Kosovo 2 weeks ago, and she mentioned that the EU enlargement is the European Union's most strategic or most important geopolitical project. So EU enlargement is important for the EU also in terms of geopolitical, let's say, security and necessity. And of course, because EU enlargement is something special that the EU offers, also compared to other, let's say, peacemaking entities, this peacemaking is also more intensive. It's more intensive, it encompasses a comprehensive mix of activities, including diplomacy, political conditionality, very strong financial support, but also institution building, institutional reform. And it's also very inclusive, and this is a part of the topic of this conference. The EU always makes sure that the enlargement process is very inclusive and it touches all, let's say, all layers of the population. The EU enlargement process is not always straightforward. We could see some, let's say, stalling in the past decade, but now since 2022, since the Russian aggression in Ukraine, there is a much stronger dynamics in the enlargement process, and we have new candidate countries, new chapters being opened, new negotiating chapters being closed. So there is a very clear progress forward, and I hope that within 5 or maximum 10 years we will see the enlargement also in the Western Balkans happening.
We certainly hope so here in Kosovo. I want to follow on a comment that the Foreign Minister Combo mentioned, is that the threat of AI and the possibilities of AI in peacemaking. Science is uniting us, but humanity is dividing us, is, I think, a very good summary of what we're talking about. And we need to be able to strike a balance between how do we use technology. And I wanted to perhaps draw on the expertise and experience of Vice Minister Kanchanachari, excuse me, and maybe just ask you to sort of comment on how does AI play into the challenge of peace building, and how do we make sure that it helps us and doesn't harm us?
Thank you. We must harness the power of technology. Artificial intelligence and big data can offer early warning system for conflict, provide the real-time insight, and enhance decision-making. AI and big data support peace building by identifying early warning signs of conflicts, such as spike in hate speech, population movements, and resource shortage, allowing faster and more informed response. We can also analyze large volume of data from social media and local report to track trends and community sentiment. To ensure this to help and not harm, we must prioritize transparency, prevent bias, the algorithm, and involve local stakeholders to interpret data in the context. Technology and complement, not replace, human judgment and community bias peace effort. Beyond technologies, Thailand is committed to advance gender equality and protecting the rights of women and children, both domestically and globally. The Thai Constitution guarantees gender equality and promote women's political participation. Internationally, Thailand contributes actively to UN peacekeeping operations, with a strong emphasis on women's roles in peace process. Ultimately, peace building must be inclusive. Women, youth, and local communities are not peripheral, they are central to sustainable peace. When diverse voices are heard and empowered, peace agreements are more likely to endure and society are better equipped to heal and rebuild. Thailand has participated in the peacekeeping, committing to contributing to the more female peacekeeper, gender expert to UN peacekeeping missions worldwide. Thailand offered 28 out of 273 Thai women military and police personnel serving in our contingents under the United Mission. Training and capacity building gender issues have been integrated into several aspects of the Peace Course modules. I also like to quote our UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres' open remarks in March, 10th of March in New York. He said that we need to action in technology. The Global Digital Compacts commit to action for women and girls to encourage leadership and correct gender bias data, to eliminate all forms of violence against women using digital and technology. To promote their participation in science, technologies, and engineering and mathematics. We need to guarantee women full and equal and meaningful participation in peacekeeping. This is a proven path to more enduring solution as recognized by UN Security Council, adopted in 25 years ago. Therefore, I personally believe that women can participate in peace building, peacekeeping, and peace decision making. So we all need to ensure women's full, equal, meaningful participation and leadership decision making at every level and all walks of life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And let me take that last comment of the Vice Minister and put it to the panel and really to this room. I think it's time that we stop giving lip service to gender equality in 1325 and put women at the table at all levels. And maybe we could start with Deputy Minister Nganzo Kayanga with this question. How do we move from tokenism to genuine leadership and equality? There are over 100 countries that have adopted 1325. The EU, NATO, the African Union, and the OSCE have all embedded women, peace, and security principles into their institutional programming. But there's a big difference between pledges and delivering. And maybe I could ask you to start this conversation. We could have a conversation among ourselves of how do we really get tokenism, from tokenism to actual implementation where women are at every level of peacemaking?
Thank you very much for that question. To be precise, women and youth need to participate at all levels in terms of peace and security. Women and youth, they get the brunt of the conflicts. So he who wears a shoe realizes the pinch. He knows the pinch of the shoe. So women and the youth are vulnerable. So they're supposed to be put in leading positions in terms of peace and security because they understand well the sufferings, the hardships which they go through. So if we really want to attain peace and security, we really need to involve them. We need to include them. They have to take a leading role because women have got patience. Women, they know the pain of bearing.
We know that they should, but why don't they?
Because they are not being given space.
By whom?
Those who are globally, I think even women have fought for their space, but they're not being given space. Those in authority should make sure that they take responsibility of putting women in leadership positions because women can lead well. They have demonstrated. We have come here in Kosovo, we have a woman president. You have seen how she has demonstrated. And we have seen the women who have gone through the trauma. They are all women. So women are taking a leading role in the sufferings, but they also have to take a leading role in leading, in making decisions. So whether we are making our budgets, we're making our policies, we're making peace missions, women have to take the lead because they understand well the sufferings, the ill treatments they go through. You know, we have discussed the issues of rape. Women are raped in daylight, but they have to survive. They have to take care of the children. They have to move on. So they have to be in the lead. They need to take a leading role. So all the authorities hearing us on this podium, they have to know that we have to make sure that we put women in the leadership position. In my country as Malawi, we have a commission, Peace and Unity Commission, and we have put a woman there as the chair. She has to lead because we know she's going to deliver because women have demonstrated that they can perform well in terms of leadership elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So, the message I take from that is women have to stop asking for the chair and just take the chair and take that leadership. Let me now turn to Kosovo's former Foreign Minister, Haradinaj Stubla, and maybe ask you to comment on your own experience here in Kosovo of women being engaged in the peace process. We've had 2 women presidents, we've had deputy ministers, women are winning the quota here in a way that's impressive, but there still is a dialogue going on between Serbia and Kosovo that has very few women at the table, very few transparency. Just maybe comment on the importance of civil society. You can use Kosovo as an example or elsewhere in the world of the importance of civil society translation and transparency and women at the table.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. I'm very honored to be sitting and sharing this panel with distinguished guests. Thank you so much also to President Osmani for the 3rd edition of the Women, Peace and Security Forum. Fortunately, I think I'm the only one in this panel who has also witnessed war and witnessed making peace with the aggressor. And I share this experience, I think, with many of other Kosovo Albanians of my generation and older here in this room. Going back to the initial question, Madam Ambassador, I think what has peacemaking meant for Kosovo, I think it has meant sitting in pain with the aggressor, sitting and defending Kosovo while in peace with the remnants of the Milosevic regime who made war with Kosovo, committed genocide in Kosovo with the same people that you sit in the room defending Kosovo, with the same people that were silent, standing by Milosevic at that time. And that has been the painful journey of Kosovo in making peace. However, a quarter century after the war, we still live with those memories. To date, we still have Serbia's impunity policy as state policy, threatening everyone in their country who dare to give information on the whereabouts of the mass graves of the Kosovo Albanians killed in the war. So oftentimes, even when I was foreign minister at the time and I had to defend and make speeches in the same room with those who stood with the perpetrators a quarter century ago, I was always labeled as a nationalist. So as long as we portray demanding accountability and demanding justice and demanding responsibility from the aggressor, and if we continue to label this as nationalism, I think we will continue to see even more and even graver consequences of war, as we're seeing in Ukraine and elsewhere throughout the world, unfortunately, these days. So I think we should normalize asking for responsibility, asking for accountability, asking to have those perpetrators put in front of justice before we demand conclusive peace. And unfortunately, this hasn't been the case for Kosovo. This hasn't been the case for almost more than 13,000 killed, more than 20,000 women raped during the war. Still to date, we live with those memories and we live with those painful facts of the past without having proper justice. So going back to the question of the lack of women in the decision-making table, I think peace is not a piece of paper, an agreement that we will agree, we will come to a conclusion altogether, and it ends there. I think peace is much more than a piece of paper and much more than an agreement and a continuous dialogue. I think peace should be cultivated in our daily lives, the way we raise our children, educate our children, and the way we conduct governance and the way we treat women. So in this respect, I think Kosovo has championed its way. We have had many women negotiators in peace agreements in the past. It was a woman who has brokered a deal with Serbia in 2013, but it is men that don't honor those agreements, that don't honor their commitments, and they don't honor their responsibilities, and in this case, the responsibilities of the crimes committed during the war. So I think it's also a matter of the governments, how they empower women to lead peace processes, but also it's in part also a matter of how women bring their chair to the table. And I think this was the case during my tenure as foreign minister. I wasn't given a space in the dialogue with Serbia when we were negotiating the Washington Agreement in 2020. An agreement with Serbia, I think I had to impose my way in the decision-making table, in the dialoguing table, despite the fact that it was my place there, not only as a foreign minister, but as someone who has followed dialogue for a long time. So sometimes we should also impose ourselves and impose our knowledge and our experience, our education into the table and make a difference among men who usually don't honor their commitments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see Pavlina has her hand up, and then I wanted to also ask Deputy Minister Ndërkombëtar to maybe address some of the institutional roles in that. But Pavlina, you had your hand up, so you first.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to add one point. I fully agree with all ladies that promoting women to the leadership positions is the way how to get them involved in peacemaking. And this must be done at the national level or in the international organizations. And here I want to bring in my own experience from working for the European institutions for more than 15 years. I worked for the European Commission, and there the quotas were applied. I'm personally not very much in favor of quotas for participation of women, because I believe that we women are good and strong enough to get these posts on the basis of our merits. But I must say that in the European Commission, this has helped. For 10 years, these quotas were applied, and now you can see that the women in the leading positions who would be at the peacemaking table, be it Ursula von der Leyen or Kaja Kallas, they are women, actually. So it has helped. These quotas helped to create a critical mass within the institution, and then after the ending of the quotas, the situation just corrected automatically.
Thank you. Less than a month ago, we had elections in Albania. And when it came to the fixed list of candidates from the Socialist Party, we had to respect the quota of 30% of men in the case of Albania. So for the first time ever, a list of one city in Albania during the central elections had to respect the quota for men. This means that institutions don't represent the society. Institutions shape the society. This is what we have to take into account. This is how we should start our walk, our race, our way of doing things. This is what we have done in Albania. First of all, we made equality the law. We have quotas, of course. It's 30% for the list in the parliament and 50% for the representatives of local government. So when it comes to the municipality councils, it's one woman, one man, one woman, one man, every time. There was, an attempt from the male politicians when the last amendments to the electoral code passed, like 4 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, not to have a quota for the open list of candidates. But the civil society jumped in, and they cooperated very strongly with women members of parliament, and they brought the quotas at the last moment, just before these amendments were passed in the parliament. So what we do is we listen to the civil society. The civil society makes the government accountable in Albania, as it should be. We are accountable for making sure that women sit in the table. there are 75% of ministerial posts belonging to women in Albania. We have more women ministers than men ministers. But this is irrelevant. The most important thing is that the professionalism of these women and men, both as ministers, deputy ministers, and other levels of government, it's the same. We have professional women and professional men. This is what we aim to do. And so far, it's not, it's not that we are the best place on earth when it comes to equality, but the change has been there, not only in numbers, but also in substance. Since we opened also more positions for women in the police and in the military forces, we could see, for example, the number of women that report domestic violence in Albania has increased, not because there is more domestic violence, but because they feel more confident to report this violence at women police officers. But the number of women that have been killed because of domestic violence has lowered in the last year. So this shows us a lot. Of course, Albania has not had a conflict with another country, but we had civil unrests in '97, and there was rape by Albanians done to Albanians. So rape is not only a weapon that is used by the enemy towards the country that they try, to aggress. It's a weapon that men, uncivilized men, use against women. So it's something that we should not see only as a thing that is happening in the places of conflict. It's happening everywhere, and we should speak more about it. And another thing, it's a pity that women have the majority of the room when it's spoken about women's rights and women's issues. Women should have their place everywhere. We must grab it. They are never going to give it to us. We should do it ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, Trisha, yes.
I just want to concur with my colleagues. It's very interesting that the other colleague mentioned that she made herself in. She pushed herself in. I think that time is gone. Women should not strive to get leadership positions. In my country, we have an election in coming September, and we have the first past the post, which is very crucial and very difficult for women to claim their seats in parliament. But then our president is preaching the issues of representation, equal representation. And when it comes to appointments, we have done well because key leadership positions have been taken by women. We have the MAKE chair, a woman. We have the secretary in the president's office as a woman. We have the speaker of parliament, a woman. We have the inspector general, a woman. We have more key leadership positions headed by women. So I think it's time that our leaders should look into these issues seriously to make sure that women are incorporated. They shouldn't fight or struggle to get the positions because they can ably deliver. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Did you want to add, or you? I was going to move to the final question, if that's okay. And just, maybe we could just go down the line and start with Melissa and Vice Minister. We could, I think I've sat on these panels for many years with women need to take it, women need to move it, men have to accept it, it has to be normalized, we need male allies. But I was struck by your saying that uncivilized men are conducting domestic violence, but we consider ourselves civilized societies, and it's still accepted and not shamed as much as it can. So maybe we just take, imagine that we're at the 40th or the 50th anniversary of 1325. Just what is one guiding principle and one thing that you feel you'd like to revisit this in the future and say, what has to change in order to have much more progress than we've seen so far? So just rapid fire, one guiding question, one guiding principle that we should all embrace, and one change, whether it's a policy, a mindset, just what would your aspiration be that we see in the future anniversaries of 1325 so that we can see real lasting change, which we're clearly not yet. So Melissa, maybe you start with you and then we'll head off to lunch.
All right, I'll be brief, but I think one of the main principles that we need to uphold, I think, is the inclusive leadership, the principle of inclusive leadership. And I think this doesn't always entail having women at the table, but also having youth, having other communities. And I think Kosovo has been a champion, I must say, in this regard, not only in having codified the rights of not only women, but also of the minority communities. And I think no peace deal, no peace agreement, or no peace treaty would be conclusive and would be lasting without the principle of inclusivity. So I think if we continue to uphold this principle, I think we will continue to have quality women, quality arguments, and the improvement of the peace agreements when women are at the table, when women are at the forefront of leading important international, not only in peace agreements, but also in other security and stability agendas. Thank you.
I'm going to just ask everyone to be rapid fire because we have 3 minutes left in the panel, so I want to make sure we get everyone off to lunch. So very quickly.
I would fully subscribe to that, and I would add one more angle. I think that we need a change in the mindset that breaks away from the ghosts of the past and looks more into the future. And here, inclusiveness and inclusion of women is fully logical because women look at the impact, look more to the future. They care about the future of their children. We heard from President Sadriou that children are the soul of the future. So by including women, we could maybe also break away from the ghost of the past and look more into the future.
Thank you very much. I think I would like to concur with my colleague about inclusivity. Where you have inclusivity, then there is equity. Where you have equity, there is an assurance of peace. So women should be at the center of obtaining, being included in the leadership positions, equal distribution of resources, opportunities, representation. Therefore, we'll be able to attain the peace. Thank you.
Of course, inclusion, but from all levels of society, from women that belong to every community. But also there should be some closure with the past before we go to the future. We should not forget the story. Of course, we should see forward to the future, but if there is no closure from the past conflicts, I think it will be a bit difficult for people to sit, to discuss, and to decide on peace. And also, I believe that the legislation should be shaped by everybody. Inclusiveness when you shape legislation.
Yes. As for Thailand, as you know, we have youngest Prime Minister, and she's one of the leading role in Thailand. So in Thailand, women actually working very hard from the rural families up to the business or top leaderships in business or in government. However, there are still number of the women in parliaments, maybe not as high percentage. It's about 16%. So we are looking forward to have more women participate in parliaments from rural, from provinces, and from the in the cities. So we feel that we are moving forward to the women empowerment and to achieve the true gender parity, so that we can smaller the gaps. But as we are Asian nature, women are a little bit more soft and soft talking and sort of timid. But in a sense, women in Thailand are very strong character. They work very hard. They caring for the family, and so I think Thailand is actually trying to reduce the gap between, men and women in the society.
Well, thank you so much. We, I think, recognize the problems, recognize the obstacles, the need for societies to change, have the mindsets change, push women at the table at every level, think about it. Women also have to be more assertive on it, but societies are not quite there yet in accepting it other than in principle, but we hopefully in the next anniversaries will have more of it in practice. And I want to just commend all of our panelists who are changing these challenges every day and advancing women's equality and peace and security in your own lives, and just an extraordinary panel. So give them a round of applause. Thank you so, so much for everything. And I look forward to, sorry we didn't have time for questions, but we can hopefully mingle at lunch, which starts now, and see you back in an hour.